Welcome to Reality After Show coverage of the challenge. Tonight we are talking season 40 and we are breaking down Era 1. Who's on the cast, what our thoughts are, who we dislike, and who we wish was actually there. I'm your host, Dan Montchal, joined as always by my ride or die, Alex Trias. And you will notice that right now we are without Paulie. We are hoping he's going to join us at some time during the stream. We just had a little bit of time issues, but hopefully he will be with us before too long. But Alex, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great. And with Paulie, if he's not here today, he will be here next week as we prep towards season 40. And, it was sort of fun going back. I was like going through the Rolodex of the seasons of Era 1, the OGs of it all, Paulie's favorite people, as we know very well, the OGs. And I'm very excited to go into some of the names that didn't make the list that all of us know would never say yes again. They're too big at this point to come back. But there's some fun ones in there too that I'm like, I wouldn't have mind seeing them on, especially having the full history of the challenge now. But speaking on OGs and we're getting back to our roots, we do have an ad read that we had to put out here for those who like going to North Carolina in end of August. This ad could be for you.
Coming to Cary's Coca-Booth Amphitheater, it's the legendary Roots crew. That's right, the Roots are coming to Cary, North Carolina, Friday, August 30th. And they're not alone. Special guest Macy Gray. This is benefiting the K-Yao Cancer Fund, so get your tickets now. That's right, go to etix.com, that's etix.com, or come to the venue box office. It's Coca-Booth Amphitheater in Cary, North Carolina, Friday, August 30th. The Roots! See you there.
And we're back. Time to start talking Era 1. I think Era 1 is, as you were talking about prior to the ad break, it's one of the best eras to talk about because as you go back, there's so many people that you uncover and be like, oh, I completely forgot about this person as you're seeing who could have potentially been on the cast. So I think Era 1 is going to be one of the most exciting ones to talk about. And how we're going to go through it is we're just going to talk about, well, my list anyway, because I'm the one that's talking right now, is who I'm most or we're going to go from who I'm least excited to see on the season all the way down to who I'm most excited to see. And I know Alex made his rankings as well. We'll ping pong back and forth, but do you want to start guys or girls?
Let's start with the girls.
I don't think it's going to be to anyone's shock that I'm just willing to bet that the person that Alex is the least excited to see this season is Aneesa.
Shockingly enough, you're right. Yes, Aneesa is always going to be my least excited. Now, if we really look at the grand scheme of things, if you're just controlling things in Era 1, and in full retrospect, I wasn't looking at these people just based off the first 10 seasons because obviously it's a different time period, different type of comps, different type of season. Season 1, everyone just wins. There is no
trophy
prize. They all get a trip to an island or something. I forget. But with Aneesa, it's there isn't that many glowing things to talk about early on. She shows up a couple times in both the Battle of the Sexes seasons, I believe. I don't believe she makes her first final yet within the first 10 seasons. If she does, it's very late in there.
I don't think, if I could be wrong, but I don't think her first final is all the way till the Duel 2. Could be wrong.
I was going to say, because I remember that, and then doesn't she run one with Mark later on?
Well, Mark's the Duel 2 that she runs.
Okay, it is Mark there, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But she does make, I know she makes at least one more. I'm pretty sure.
Anyway.
Probably. She's been on enough seasons. There's no way she's
been on a million seasons. My issue always with her isn't that she like comes back, but she comes back with the air of a winner without ever actually having won, and wants the privileges of a winner when she hasn't earned a win. So it's just like we know her story inside and out, and in that regard, that makes her a good casting choice. Production knows what they're going to get out of her. She's good in her confessionals. She could be better, but yeah, it's just like I don't feel anything when I see Anissa there.
That's just because I don't think that there's been any really evolution to her. You just know what to always expect from Anissa, and it isn't necessarily bad. It's just, it is what it is. And yeah, there's no excitement for her. I mean, the last exciting thing that she did on the challenge was what? Hook up with Corey, like in season 29 and 30?
Or I would say the last exciting thing she did was controversial, and that was outing Veronica and Rachel's relationship.
There was that too.
So in that part, she's sort of lucky that Veronica doesn't make the cut for Eras, whether it's because of just the turnaround between All Stars seasons, I don't know, or because let's talk Veronica here. She's not on the cast list. Everyone who follows our pod knows my feelings about her, especially throughout All Stars 4. However, like, I would flip Anissa and Veronica in a heartbeat. Like, I think they fill a similar box for me, but like Veronica, you at least get the mean girls of it all, of her, Tina, and Rachel together again, a second attempt after All Stars 4.
See, I just think that they didn't want to put the three of them all together again.
Why? Because it damages the Vacation Alliance, because Anissa's part of that. Like,
no, I just don't think they wanted to do that. And I'm not going to say that I'd rather see Veronica over Anissa. If you made that swap, Veronica's still at the same spot on my list. I'm not excited to really see either of them. At this point, they're both going to show up. They'll make it along decently in the game, either because they are well connected socially or because everyone realizes that they're a layup, and then eventually they'll become the sacrificial lamb. That's been their story arc entirely. I mean, Anissa had Jordan as her partner in Ride or Dies. If Jordan can't get her a win, there ain't anyone who's getting her a win.
I mean, that's fair. What we can expect from Anissa is she'll give us confessionals. She'll probably win an elimination and then lose the second one, because you got to keep that 500 record going.
She's like Eli Manning.
Exactly.
Without the Super Bowls, I guess.
Yeah,
but,
and you know what? She had the thing she has going for her is she has a lot of friends on the cast.
I expect Anissa to be there halfway through the game. She gets thrown in for the second time. Probably, you're right. She wins one, then loses one. She throws a fit about how she's so betrayed, and then she goes home and wrap up that Anissa storyline.
And to be fair, like I still don't. I haven't really brushed up fully on the mechanics of the game, but like there's some of it may be out of her control. Like if the same era is going against each other in elimination, then we could see her going in quicker if era 1 starts on their back foot. If she has to go against some of these other eras and it's just girl versus girl instead of like paired up, like there's a lot of heavy hitters in the other eras for the women that I don't think it'll be there's not as many freebies for her as there is on a typical season. But let's move on. This is enough Anissa talk.
Yeah, that's way too much Anissa. So if I'm going, and by the way, Anissa, I agreed with you. Least excited to see. Least excited guy on my list, I have Brad. It's just we're coming into a weird place with Brad where he just had All-Stars 4. You could tell he was out of it. He didn't play, prepare well, whatever that was. It wasn't a typical Brad season. And you have that plus his elimination where he's flown out as a mercenary. Granted, it was last minute, but he looks like he's all sorts of stressed out. Who knows what's going on in his life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I've just seen enough of the Brad story lately that I don't need Brad again.
Yeah, that's fair, because like we get him in a good bunch in the early 30s, and then he's been one of the more regular casted on the All-Star series. You're right, he's on downhill. It's why he's also not the least, for me, he's second least excited to see, because you're right, like we know his story. There's nothing really that's going to change that. The one thing that keeps him over it is what you kept talking about and teasing us during All-Stars 4 for when we get to Eras 40 is that midlife hookup that he's going to find in this season that's gonna, reignite that energy in him. So
Part 2.
I'm gonna keep it there for now. He's at number 2 from least to most excited to see. Just because there is that little bit there that I'm like, if he can come back with a little bit of fire, there's some matchups with him that I would really enjoy seeing. But if he's not that, then you're right. He would be my least excited person to see.
And this really isn't a knock on Brad. I mean, I completely understand why he's on the cast. If you're making that list, it makes sense that he's on the cast. I've just, I don't know. I'm a little Braded out lately.
Yeah. So my least exciting guy, though, is Derek.
I see. We flopped. I had him as my second least.
Because, to be fair, we know Derek's story. I'm here to support my children. He has the challenge mania of it all. It's just that the last couple All-Star seasons left I don't know why. It just left a sour taste in my mouth with him. Like, I'm hopeful that with him having all these other people here, he can resort back to not being the guy or thinking he needs to be the guy. Because unfortunately for him, he just isn't that.
My issue with Derek, why I had him second lowest on my list, is great. Everything that he did for the challenge, mania and the challenge community, that's awesome. Respect that. Love that for him and Scott. It's great. But I'm not a big listener of their podcasts. It's nothing against them. It's just not for me. But what I have heard, I think when it first started coming out, was Scott, I think, really pumping Derek up, being like, well, I can't believe Derek didn't come back. Like, he came all back for season 30. He finished second. He had that little tussle with Nelson. Like, why isn't he getting back? And I think the more that was talked about, it just beat into Derek's head. And so I feel like when we see Derek on All-Stars appearances, when he comes back, he's trying too hard. And it's such a try-hard version of himself, of taking his emotions and everything and ramping it up to 12. And I understand that's part of reality TV. Sometimes you need to ramp it up. Not the way Derek does. It's just not for me.
But because Derek and Brad are very similar. Their hype is, I just snorted a bunch of pre-workout, so I'm going to be shouting a lot and be very loud, but not making any sense while doing it, which is entertaining. That part's entertaining as hell. But it's like you believe that he believes it, and that's where my issue is. So it's like, I'm all for underdog Derek. I don't need Derek in a power position. I need Derek in I need to be the pit bull again, and going down in the sand, winning some brutal eliminations to just people remembered this. This is what I was. This is what I still am. That's what I need from him. but because we're not going to get the hookups with him, we're not going to. Well,
Mary just had a
I
second
mean,
kid.
we could see it, but who's to say?
Well, apparently he was hooking up with Brittany prior to Brad getting back in the picture in Vendettas. So,
I mean, that's between marriages, though. So,
oh no, this isn't throwing any shade. Brittany was gorgeous, and at that point in time, good for Derek and Brad, like good for both of them. But
oh, for sure, I
even
remember
even both of those, I'm assuming Derek probably didn't hook up during season, so we didn't see it. So that's just another, hey, when you were single and could hook up with someone, you didn't. Now in his situation that he has now, where I know he had his second kid, but I'm pretty sure his wife was pregnant at the time. Like that's completely off the table.
Yeah. So like that's just why. That's why I have him where he is.
We're just flopped there. So
yeah,
I completely get it. That's just
okay. So go to your second lowest woman.
It's Jody.
Interesting.
Jody is. I have two analogies. Do you want the one comparing her to a food, or do you want the one comparing her to a castmate?
I sort of want both.
All right.
Don't leave us wanting more. Like give it all here.
I feel like she's the old version of Casey. She's very good at the game. She's good at the challenges. She's just boring. And it's why I don't know, she's a ham sandwich. There's nothing wrong with a ham sandwich. I enjoy it. Anytime if you came up to me and said, would you like a ham sandwich? Probably going to say yes. But I'm never craving the ham sandwich. It's never what I'm after to go and get. And that's just what I feel like with Jody is she's dull. You don't get enough out of her that I can't be amped up and be like, hell yeah, Jody's back. Because I don't know what more we're going to see from her that we didn't see in All-Stars 3 and World Championships. I think it's another one where it's just a lot of the same thing. And now that she's older, she seems to have a more dialed back personality, which is completely normal because that's just how life generally works. But I can't be revved up for Jody being back.
So World Championship is why I had her one slot lower. I had her middle of the pack. And it's because we can at least be more certain that she's someone who, if able to, will go against the grain because just of the fact that she doesn't like someone. Like she won't just ride with the pack just for the sake of getting one episode further. Like that doesn't really scream Jody to me as opposed to someone who I did put at my second lowest, which you probably have flip-flopped with me. But that's why I'm excited for Jody. And plus, like, I always just go back to her solo win, where like she beat Brad, who won for the guys in that final. She beat Wes, like in that final. Like,
well, Brad came in second, but
you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I'm just listing I'm listing competitors that everyone counts very highly of, and be like, well, she beat all of them when they were like going into their prime.
Well, I mean, not to nitpick, but Brad should have won that bullshit soccer shootout for a 2-minute advantage. But no, I get what you're saying.
Right. And she did have like a decent showing in All Stars when she first came back as well. Like, so she has that upside, and the fact that she could go against the house just because, she's grown, she doesn't care. I can live with that, which leads to my second least, which is Katie Doyle, which
it's not who I have. I have Katie.
Oh, wow. Wow. So I have her there just because when we talk about we know what we're getting, and Katie will yell at somebody. There's a world where I would love to see a screaming match between her and Amanda, because I feel like they fill a similar box. But she's afraid of heights. She's always going to be afraid of heights. She is going to be someone in this era, if they have the choice to put someone into elimination within themselves, they will pick her. And I just don't see the longevity, which is why I'm just like, that's not exciting for me.
I can understand that. I have her at 4th. I'm excited to see Katie back. I enjoy Katie. I think it's because she's not afraid to mix it up. I get she's afraid of heights. How many times can she get busted up on a fall from heights down into water? I don't know. Kind of want to find out. See, if she can do it. And I think because she's just someone that, yes, we saw her, I guess, most recently on All Stars. But I like the Katie pick. Katie pick. So I'm a little bit higher on her.
It is what it is. That's just how I'm feeling.
No, hey, I'm not telling you you're wrong here.
Okay, so who's your 3? Who's your 3?
Tina.
Let's see, she's my 4. I'm just like, every time she has come back in All Stars, I get more excited to see her because I think I'm watching her become like a fan again of the show. And when she's a fan, that means she's also going to be more her. And like last season of All Stars, I had so much fun with Tina. She was in the bit, she understood her role, and she played it amazingly. And I want to see Tina now with all of these people that she has never played a game with before.
Me having her at 3, this is not a shot at Tina. I love Tina. Everything that you said about All Stars 4, she worked so hard for that star. Loved every second of it. My favorite Tina fact, which has nothing to do with this rankings or whatever, and it's not even a fact, but if you look back at history, was everyone remembers Cutthroat. They remember CT coming in as the mercenary, doing the whole bananas backpack. I feel like a lot of people forget that Tina was the mercenary that came in for the female side, which now looking back on it is hilarious.
I mean, yeah, that's funny, which is why I'm more excited to see her than any of the 3 I have below her.
So at this point, we can just
finish out
fill out the rest of it. So we both have Rachel as the person we're most excited to see.
Yeah, because we were deprived of seeing this new version of Rachel. Which isn't a new version of Rachel, but it's just
new for
Rachel we haven't seen in forever. And when we got her into elimination, I know like Polly mentioned it last week, like some of us included, were like, oh, why are they just throwing knives at a thing that's like, we wanted a headbanger. I'm selfish. I want to see a headbanger. I want to see Rachel bash heads into the ground, into the sand, and like she's a threat. Like, and I want to see that fully fleshed out in a season like this.
I completely agree, and I think she's the only one in Era 1 females that has a shot at winning this game.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that she will, but I think she's the only one with a shot simply because I think she's on good enough terms with enough people that she isn't, that Jody that's going against the grain. That sure, Jody can win a few eliminations, but I don't think Jody's ever going to be in a majority, which means eventually Jody's going to go home. I think Rachel's at a point where, depending upon how chips lay, she could be in a decent majority where she wouldn't need to go into elimination, but obviously has everything that you could possibly need to back it up in case she does.
I agree. And there's a level of like being from her era of like, my word is my word, that I feel could go a long way. And especially if someone like the Era 2 people, I think, will want to work with Rachel in some capacity. And that's like the big crux here, because like she's done like her challenge workout videos things with people across all 4 of these eras. Right? She's done them with Tori and Casey. She's done them with Jordan. She's done it with Mark Long. Like she's had these experiences with people across the board. So it's a matter of do they want to weaken Era 1 by constantly going after Rachel, or do they see Rachel as someone that they can work with depending on how this season unrolls, like theme-wise?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's absolutely right, because I'm like you. I don't know exactly the format for how it's going to work other than they're broken into eras. So it could be completely wrong. So, I don't know, just pick Era 4, says, oh, we really want to weaken Era 1. And if they have the option to pick who goes in, you could have something where they could throw a Rachel in time and time again. And that changes a lot of what we just said.
Yeah.
But everything aside, I think she's clearly the best female in Era 1. And I think arguably top 3, top 5 of the cast.
Yeah, you could easily pitch me that she's a top 3 woman to win the game.
Mm-hmm.
Just skill wise, without knowing anything about alliance structures, politics, the game itself. Yeah, very hard pressed for me to not have her on like my Mount Rushmore for the girls this season.
Mm-hmm.
But that wraps up our girls. Let's finish out the guys. So we're at 3 for the guys. And I have the Godfather himself. I have the creator of All Stars. We Want OGs. I have Mark Long. Part of it is because we don't have Fessel on this season, and there was a bit like there was all that trash talk, and I wanted to sort of see Mark Long and Fessel go head to head in an elimination just to like set it in stone. I know he's over 50, but look at him. Put him in a physical elimination, he can still go at it. He did beat Jordan in an elimination.
One of the few people that have.
Yeah. I think all the people who have are on this season.
Horacio beat him.
Bananas.
Fessy
Mark
beat him.
Long.
Fessel beat him, but
Fessel broke his arm, so like
yeah. Also, a pole wrestle.
That was during when Fessel just injured people in elimination. So we can only be so much here, even though Jordan would hate that we are even giving him an excuse here.
Yeah. No,
follow Jordan's Instagram, by the way, if you want to be motivated and get in shape.
I was going to say that, or just calling out Challenge Production.
Doing
that as well.
Yeah. This may be the last time we see Jordan on a season.
Makes me feel better about my pick, if I'm being honest. It sounds like someone who got a payday. Who knows? But
who knows?
He's also racing and doing a bunch of other stuff that I'd imagine part of the reason why we haven't seen Jordan as a staple, like, the Bananas, the CTs, the Wesses, who did so many back-to-back, was between some of his outside projects. I imagine if he's not winning, he kind of is taking a pay cut.
Yeah. And I also just think he's a man who gets bored. And
100%.
Even if he's doing great at something, he's like, well, I want a new challenge. I want something that another thing that people think I couldn't do, and now I'm going to go and do it. But this isn't about Air 3. Cutting the Jordan talk here. Mark Long. It's like Mark Long does have the potential to go very far. He also has the potential to not be here very long. That just depending on what things are, because his strengths are his strengths, his weaknesses are his weaknesses. If you give him something that's endurance, that isn't just strictly muscle related, he's going to crash out. That's never been his strong suit. And as he's gotten older, he's just gotten more muscle on him, which doesn't make it easier. But like, we know what we're going to get from Mark Long. Mark Long, like, we all talk about Bananas being half player, half producer. Like, Mark is just as much that, except he actually has the credits for it.
I have Mark at 4, and it's simply because the last time we've seen him on All Stars, but the last time we've seen him on the flagship was what, Battle of the X's?
It was
pretty sure it was Battle of the X's with Robin.
Him and Robin.
Yeah. And so I'm happy to see him come back. And I think he just knows his role he knows he isn't going to win. Just go in there, have a few moments, few laughs, make some
Throw up
memories.
some of them young bucks.
Yeah, and then exit stage right. And I just think that's what we're going to get from Mark. And I'm completely okay with that. I'm excited for it. And I was torn between 3 and 4, but I had him at 4 just because it'd been so long since he's been on.
I feel like we
MTV.
probably have our things flipped right here. So say you're 3.
My 3's Darrell.
Yeah, my 4 is Darrell. And it was one of those things where I was looking at them like I could put them in either slot.
Love Darrell.
I
Darrell
want him
is
to get
someone
his
that
camper one day.
I want him. Agreed. He should get his camper. He's someone that having him at 3, like there's no way you could have Arrow 1 and not have Darrell be a part of it if he wants to. So
No, yeah, like he comes into the game and just wins. Like they're lopsided finals, to be very clear. I think outside of one of the first 3 seasons where he wins, the first 2 he wins. Like it's like a team of 9 versus a team of 5 to 6, and then he wins his 3rd season, but it's like a team of 4 that also has like Jamie Murray and The Miz on it.
It was I think that one was the Inferno. It was him, The Miz, Landon, which I'm sure will
his
have
first
some comments
season.
on the and not Jamie Murray. It was Jamie Chung from Real World,
who
San Diego.
By the way, spoiler. In a world where they were like, we could get Jamie Chung, it does not matter on challenge history. You would bring Jamie Chung in because the eyeballs you would get from Jamie Chung coming back to the challenge where she's like, I will never do this again. I'm above this. Which she is.
She went out with her W. That was the last time we saw her.
Yeah.
It was like, I think, season 10.
Yeah. No.
Or maybe it was 11, but it was right around there.
Yeah. You talk while I look that up.
Yeah, no. So that's where we're at. We just had Darrell and Mark flipped, which means, once again, for the person that you're most excited to see is CT, which if you're polling any challenge fan, CT might be the person they're most excited to see on this cast, not just on Arrow 1, because they want to see him come back. We haven't had our CT fix on the challenge lately anyway. You had that little appetite in 39 where he comes back, he wins his elimination, he does, God's work and takes out Asaf in that weird elimination, and even hints of being like, like Daddy's got to come back, and set the record straight. So I think ever since then, challenge fans have been waiting for it, wanting him to come back, knowing that CT, anytime he steps in that house, is a top 3 threat to win the game if you don't do something about it. And when's the last time we saw anyone do something about it? Because we know how he is. He's going to come in. He's probably going to have that dad bod and out of shape. But the one thing you have to give it to CT is he works himself in shape as that season goes along. And so if the rest of the house is dumb enough to let him get to the final, he has as good a shot as anyone.
I don't
see it happening this season, but
obviously I also have him at 1 just because it's CT, you have to have him there. But I have my concerns.
Of course.
You can only do dad bod CT so many times, and it's partially I'm a little upset with him because he sort of gave us the impression when he comes into 39 to do his assassin stuff. It's like, oh, I'm prepping up for season 40,
But then he went on the Traders, and how are you supposed to turn down all of Alan Cummings' breakfasts? All right,
it can't take away my breakfast either. But I just had an expectation not for him to be in the best shape of his life, but he just the
happy medium between dad bod and Spies, Lies, and Allies CT.
Yeah. That's all I needed. It just concerns me, especially when you have the preview that's been going around, the trailer. Obviously, it could be nothing, but you're only getting older. And when you're only getting older, there's only so many times you can do the I put on a bunch of weight to then lose it all. At some point, it's going to cause injuries.
Well, not only that, but just with age, the older you get, the harder it is to just flip that switch and lose all that weight.
Right.
Like there's going to become a point where he's going to try to do that. And not saying that he can't, because if you work at it, of course you can always work it off, but it's not going to come nearly as easy as what it has been, say, like War of the Worlds 2.
And I guess like it's just like, look, I'm a challenge fan. I want to see the challenge run forever. But there's only so many times some of these people are going to be able to continue to come or will continue to say yes. And if you're saying yes, I just really want to see them put themselves in a position where they aren't going to go home based off of things they could control.
All right. We're talking about CT, not Anissa here, Alex.
I'm talking about people I want to see.
Fair
buddy,
enough.
Buddy, nah, I don't need to see that anymore. If I want to do that, I'll go out and run next to a tree and say I also tripped over a branch. Like, but you made me do it. You made me physically run that way when I could have just ran the route.
I could go on another Jordan rant here, but we're not talking about Era 3. So do think my favorite thing is with Anissa, because we talked about her first final, which was, I believe, the Duel 2, and she finished it, and she's just like, oh, that felt great, but I'm going to come back in so much better shape and ready for the next time. And it's just like, yeah, Anissa, that was like 15 years ago. Like, we're waiting for that to happen.
I mean, she looks a little bit better in shape this time around, but yeah, I'm stretching here. I'm stretching here, but that's our group. That's our group for Era 1. And I sort of want to go through some of the people that we know would say no, or they wouldn't even bother like the call because they know they would get rejected. I want to start with with the big names. So obviously I gave Jamie Chung. I'm going to do another woman right here, and that's Coral. Like, you can't talk Era 1 without talking Coral. Like, she was constantly in the finals. It's because she comes in around the time when they start actually doing eliminations. Mm-hmm. And she, I believe, wins the first time, and then like she's on the runner-up team like the next 3 times she shows up.
Yeah, I'm someone that everyone's been dying to see. For me, Coral goes in that same box of Landon and Evelyn. Be like, well, we want to see them, Landon, Evelyn, or Coral back. And it's not happening. We all wish it would. You could argue Coral, she might be the most iconic woman from Era 1.
Which would, like, if you told me Coral was on this cast, she would be number 1 on my most excited list, because regardless of placement, we have been deprived for so long of just like the electricness that she provides to the screen just from her personality and aura. It's just like she could put so many people in their place with very little effort.
Coral's on the screen, like she makes it to this cast. She's the person I'm most excited to see of anyone on the cast.
Mm-hmm.
I think you could sub in any other former challenger. I don't think there's anyone that I'd be more excited to see than Coral if that were to have happened.
Right. Like, I'm sorry, Katie, but every single girl I'm saying is replacing you on this.
Fair.
Just because, like, look, I'm least excited for Anissa, but Anissa is so intertwined with the challenge as a part of like her life that it like forces her to be on the team, unless you like replace her with a bunch of women. And like I have names, but the first like 2 that came to mind were just from Stardom is Jamie and Coral.
Yeah.
When we go to the guys, obviously besides Landon, because we talk about Landon enough here. That he only has the 1 appearance in Era 1. And like, while that would count him for it, I don't really think of him as Era 1. But it's Theo Von and The Miz, Mike Mizanin. Like, obviously, both doing probably the best in their careers right now. The Miz still with WWE. Theo Von, like, his podcast is everywhere. Like, he's like his comedy shows, like all that. Like, he's living the good life. But there would be something so cool about having either or both of them repping Era 1 on this show.
Both of them would have to take a major pay cut.
Well,
even if they were guaranteed to win. Agreed, though. I mean, those, if you're thinking of the two guys that became the most famous that started out at the Challenge or Road Rules, Real World, it's Theo and The Miz. I don't think you can argue with that. They're arguably the two. There's no one I'm missing, right? They're the most iconic, probably, names that have the fame that came from
transcending reality TV.
Agree. Yeah, like made a full career, not just the bananas of I'm going to make a career out of doing reality TV, but taking it to that next step, the next level of
based off everything I've like seen through the people, at least from name recognition for me. Those are our top two, and then like you would have Coral right there with them, like just like a tier below them. Because I know she did like some talk shows and things along those lines. Like they made it to the next level. And then obviously Jamie Chung movies, like
of course, yes, and Jamie.
Yeah. So like those are our four. Like, those are the four words. Like if I'm the Challenge and I'm going, I want eyeballs on a network that you can't watch on stream the next day. You have to have cable for it. What can we do to get people to actually do what they need to do to subscribe to MTV or get it into their plan so that they can watch? And if you had on a billboard, Era's 40, Theo Von makes his return, you just got a whole new audience coming in. Mike the Miz returns to the Challenge. You're getting a lot more eyeballs coming in. Like, the numbers there, the math works. Where it's like, oh, you would get the name recognition will sell itself. Like if you're the show, obviously pay cuts for them and why they would never say yes. Plus, like the Miz does wrestling. Like they're not going to approve him going on to a show where he could injure himself.
Of course not.
But that's what it is. But I think what's more exciting is some of that next tier down names where we're just talking the Challenge, what they did on the Challenge, and why they would be pretty cool to be on instead of someone on the list. I want you to start with it this time.
Well, do you want a guy or do you want a girl?
I want a girl. Let's go girls first.
It's for the wrong reasons. It's all for my own entertainment. I wanted to see Julie back because she gave me two of one batshit crazy moment of trying to kill Veronica. Like that's just, if she's going to try to kill someone over 10 grand, imagine what she would do for $1 million.
I mean, she does show up on the Challenge book that came out a couple years ago of how to be a challenge on the show and in life. She was interviewed because she is a champion. She wins Extreme Challenge, I believe. And it's her essentially saying she's essentially has begged to come back onto the show. So there's a part of me that I'm like, okay, we'll bring you on. Veronica's also coming on.
Oh, of course.
And the first challenge will be remaking that.
So for me, for scenes that I think of, especially thinking about Julie, it's that is How Could You Not? And the other is a dumb throwaway challenge where they have to ride a little a mini motorcycle, and you have the option of for the mission, I think they were still calling it then, who knows, with the daily, is you could take the kind of obstacle course and take it out and around, and it made it a lot more manageable because it was wider. Or you could go down like a balance beam area to get right to the end that went right to it. And she's just there, be like, the road to God is straight and narrow, and went maybe 2 feet before just eating shit and falling into the ocean. And I've always laughed at that scene. So that's why I have Julie. That's as my joke answer. If I'm picking someone for real, I feel like Thunder has been stolen here because Zach Nichols' podcast, and it's Susie, because that Susie clip has come out all over the place. But in all seriousness, Susie's the one that.
How is Susie the one that gets to work around? Like, on here, like, have interviewing her for hours. Like, if she's interested, you say yes and you keep moving. Like, sorry, Anissa. Sorry, Katie. Like, sorry, Jody. Like, you put her on, and then you put Sarah on Eras too. Like, I don't know. There's some things where I'm just like, the business of it all, I'm like, it just makes sense to have her on. And if she was interested and you still didn't put her on, I don't know. I just have questions there. But she was my like very serious pick, more so because we have like confirmation that she was interested. The girl though that I would have loved to see come back though, and also for reasons wouldn't, it's Sarah Grayson.
Well, of course, it's really cool seeing all of her stats, and I was happy because I honestly didn't know a bunch about Sarah Grayson, because where she had that historic run was the original Inferno Gauntlet. I think
it was the original Gauntlet.
Original Gauntlet. And I think she was the big takeaway winner when the challenge did that Untold History last summer, or whenever it was.
Which is on Paramount Plus now, for those who never got a chance to watch it live.
And seeing that whole story and her come out and tell it and kind of get to live that the first time, because I didn't watch that season live or anything like that, that was really cool. And I feel like since then, it isn't like she's the most popular name in Challengeverse, but you hear her name a lot more than what you did before. And so that one would have been cool.
Well, like, the easy thing here to say is like, she essentially is one and done, wins 5 eliminations against women and men. Like, you can argue the people she was going against, but still, winning 5 eliminations in a single season is very hard. It's only happened twice since, and that's when Casey and Wes did it in Fresh Meat, and when Horacio did it in season 38 in Ride or Dies, which was a mix of both. So the fact that her elimination record that she created when they first started doing actual eliminations is still a record all of these seasons later, I'm like, put her back on. Put her back on.
Throw her in every elimination. Have her eliminate the cast.
Look, she has nothing to lose. Like, even if she loses, it's like, well, she was gone for 2 decades. Like, what do you expect? She's a different person now. But I'm like, but what if she doesn't lose? What if she just comes back and keeps winning? I'm like, then you have a story there. Like, it's all about stories here in reality television. Like, bring us Sarah Grayson. So she was my like top person where I'm like, if she had any interest, you bring her back, because I'm like, that's the person I would rather see come back after only like one and done in, not a Flora. I saw her name as I was going through this list, and I was like, God, no. But there's some other names that pop out just from like an entertainment, a drama standpoint, or just like more recency being on an All Stars or things like that. So obviously you have Veronica, you have Ayana, Yesela Delgado, you have Kendall Shepard. Like, there are like, it's a smaller handful just because like there's a lot less people who constantly show up in the first 10 seasons. but those are like the names that come to mind as like sort of like the third tier.
Mm-hmm. No,
Okay.
that makes sense. All right, so talking guys, there's only 2 people that I could think of, and once again, that's not actually true. But I have
do you
one.
want my because I teased you for a
Yes,
while
yes.
that
I actually do want to know this.
Okay, so I told Dan before the podcast, like hours ago, that I had someone that going through Era 1 that I could unironically say now that I would love to have seen them on Eras. And it's Handjob Steve.
Damn it, he was my joke answer, but still.
He's my joke answer, but it's also like more legitimate after watching All Stars 4. Because like
I want him on every season.
Like
at least every
only
All-Stars.
on I forget if it was the first Gauntlet or Gauntlet 2. Or actually no, the first Gauntlet's actually no, it may have been Inferno. Whatever. He only shows up once. But he comes back to All Stars, sort of nonplussed, a little weird in All Stars 2? That he first shows up. All Stars 4 made Steve a star. He understood the assignment. Like, I don't care what Adam Larson thinks about him. Guess what, Adam? I saw your name pop up in here. I wasn't thinking for you for being on Eras. So, sorry, bud. You can sit and spin. But Steve was funny. And not only was he funny and like good with the manufactured humor in confessionals with people, it's like he was actually good at the eliminations. Like
3-0.
He was 3-0. Like I think he has like a 4-1, 4-2 record in elimination total combined now. So like all of it came from All Stars 4. And he did well in the final until he had his brain fart. But like that's Steve. That's Handjob Steve. I'm like, you need to have, I think in a season this massive, where it's like the stakes are high. You have all these people coming in Era 1, like a Derek that's like, this is the 5th world sport. I'm like, no, like I need to have that balance of people who think like that. And well, I just go into the shower and I use this conditioner and I had this coconut oil, and then I come back and I find out I'm nommed.
Steve, I don't want to say that he needs to be on every season, every All-Star season. He needs to be there. But agreed, when you're going to bring back 3/4 of All-Stars forecast, he didn't have a spot available for the, Handjob Steve. He was in the final. He finished 3rd. He won some money. Let the man eat.
Seriously. Okay. So sorry that I took your joke away, but do you have any other like names that like stood out to you while you were looking through the list?
Oh yeah, I mean Ace. No, not Ace. The one that I would have always liked to see, and we already talked about this kind of offline or whatever. I would have loved to seen Timmy come back just because he was just, I want to
see how old he looks.
Yeah, he was just that uncle that was like kind of there that, all right, Timmy, like, I think it also is influenced because it was like Inferno 3, where he's like, guys, this is my last, challenge, like elimination. He lost to Abram. He's like, I'm done. I'm going to retire. Like, this does it for me. And you find out that he's like 33 at the time. And you're like, that's when some people are starting the challenge. Yeah,
that's a rookie season now.
But you were talking about it before we got on of how old he looks. I mean, he looked like he was 42, 44, probably back then when he was in his late 20s. So probably not looking great. I don't know. Maybe he looks hot. Who knows? But I always enjoyed Timmy just because Timmy would never be the person I was rooting for or someone that I was truly invested in. But I always felt like he had enough of the moments and was a decent enough competitor. Seemed like a good dude that I always enjoyed him.
Yeah. So like some of the names that come up to me also, I'm like, if you want that dog in them, Latarian.
Yeah, but I only want to see Laterian in pole wrestle. So like Laterian
Okay.
can be there, but if he's going in, it's just automatic pole wrestle. Like I don't want to see him
Okay.
do an endurance challenge.
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. And same with Kefla. Like Kefla made me a fan, and especially hearing his clips from Zach Nichols' podcast, I'm like, oh, I could use more Kefla. I could use more Kefla.
My favorite part of that was I saw an article that showed up because in it, in his interview with Zach, Kefla just kind of says of being like, no, like I'd love to go against CT in like a hall brawl. Like he's like, I think I could win. Not saying that I definitely would, but I wouldn't back down. And I'd like to see what would happen if we did it. And then I see the screen grab from another article or whatever, be like, on an interview, it's like Kefla Blash challenge star. And it's just like, all right, then you didn't listen to that clip whatsoever, because that's not what he said.
What? People taking things out of context to get clicks? Who are we? Us? But besides that, you also have some people like I understand why you wouldn't bring him on, but like yes, I just have such a soft spot for Yes. Like he's been on the pod a few times. Beautiful soul, and like obviously can also troll at the same time to some of these people. Like he gets under Wes's skin like so easily because he's just too good of a person. And like he won the first All-Stars game, and I think like that could have been precedent enough to just like put him on this season over somebody else. I don't know who that would have been, but like you could have made a case for me that if I saw Yes there, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense.
If say Yes wanted to do the season and could,
Mm-hmm.
do you think he's put on if Wes actually does it as well, because it has that baked in storyline? Like, do you think that would be enough to push one of the guys off the list and put Yes on?
Like personally, I probably would just like take Brad off and put Yes in to do that, because like who's Brad really going to be beefing with? The only thing we're looking for is Brad to hook up with somebody, and that person then shaving his beard in the middle of the night.
Just pull an Isaac where they cut off his long toenail and he got so upset. Someone just in the middle
like
of the night when he's passed out shaves off
or
his
when
beard.
they like fake glued feathers onto Tony. Like,
oh yeah, lost it.
Yeah. So just shave his beard. I'll pay.
I don't even think you need to shave it. Just you do one swipe, or you just, be like old times where like you cut off like someone's ponytail to show that you won in battle. You just hold up Brad's beard, be like, yes.
Well, I mean, he does put the little hair tie in there during elimination. Just go and cut that off, and it'll be at a point where it makes everything uneven. You just gotta let it all go. But other guy names that came out, some like wouldn't happen. They're more just like nostalgia hits. Like you have a Jamie Murray and Eric Nice. Will never happen in Abram for many reasons. But like he's part of the challenge lore where it's like, okay, you can make a case, but just with everyone else that they podcast plus his own shit that's out there, it's like we'll never see that. We'll never see that, and I don't need to. Alton is obviously going to be on there, but we know that Alton just does not have the heart for this show at this point. So
Alton would have been someone who I think he would have been that person I would have picked had he not done All-Stars 1. And what you see from him in All-Stars 1 really just soured that stock, because it's just like, man, you don't have it at all. Because if you go back to the time we saw him before, that was the Battle of the Seasons. And sure, he was half checked out and he wanted to go home, but you still saw at least a little bit of fight from him. He did win that one elimination. He was going back and forth. I get it wasn't the greatest showing, but if that was the last we saw, I at least still would have been like, yes, I want to see him again. But when you combine that with what we got from All-Stars 1,
essentially everyone read the challenge book. Alton's interviews in there. If you ever think like, oh, why aren't we seeing Alton again? It fully explains why we will never see Alton again. It's just the game is not for him. He admits that. It's just like, if it was just us going there and doing the challenges and just like seeing who can do it the best, I think he would probably be there every single season.
He really struggles with that social and strategic part, because you think of the last times where he was doing well. It was one of the gauntlets, it was Gauntlet 2, I think. And it was as simple as if, they had them broken up between the rookies and the vets teams, and you had a captain for whatever day. And he was like the captain, the guy's captain for the rookies at some point. And so what always happened was, if you lost on a guy's day, he was going into elimination. And I think he could always handle that better, because he's just like, well, yeah, I'm the captain, we lost. Like, the honorable thing to do would be to go in. And that's something that he could accept, rather than you could see in Battle of the Seasons, like Frank really break him, because Frank was, I'm going to get underneath your skin. I'm going to drive you nuts. And you could see Alton just couldn't do that whatsoever.
No, he was done. He was like, I'm shut down. I want gone. I'm going to go home.
What, he even had that day where it was like, we can go out on a boat or whatever it was, but everyone has to agree to go. And he was like, no. And even Sarah, who was kind of like cuddling with at night, was like, Alton, that's really selfish. And he's like, I don't care. Not doing it.
Yeah. There's two other names from the guys that aren't legitimate picks, but you can make a case for. And one's because like you always forget that they started in Era 1 as Shane. Because
Yes.
like Shane makes his comeback in Invasion of the Champions, so you really more think of him more so Era 2, or more so Era 3.
Mm-hmm.
But he's Era 1. Would be interesting in there to then have him and Amanda on the season together. Then one last person.
And at least we do have a Shane return coming.
Yeah, we do have a Shane return coming. This other person, we do not have a return coming. We'll never have a return coming. But there's a little piece of me that I'm like, there's a lot of humor that could happen from this. As if you swap one of these people out and you put in Adam King on a team with CT, where we left Solemn on the challenge where he may or may not have thrown an elimination that then led to them leaving instead of Johnny and Tyler.
Yeah, that one's tough. I think for some of the rumors is the biggest reason why we never see him back again, but agreed for that value, it would be
like someone
that needs to be mentioned.
It's like all I need is for him to show up. They play the clip of "I will break your skull and eat your brain," and then he goes home in episode 1, and I'm like, okay, thank you. That's all I needed.
So what would a podcast be if I didn't make some type of reference to Danny Jameson? And it ties back.
One.
I know, but it ties back to Adam King. There was this joke post that was out there of why, Danny's really great or whatever. And so it's going through and it's making excuses. And it's when he loses to Adam in elimination. And it's just like, well, how's he supposed to compete with that? Did you see how fast Adam was? The cameras couldn't even catch it as CT was pummeling his face in.
But with all that said, Era 1 does have a lot of riches to it. I'm not sure what we will fully get. We made our predictions months ago over who we thought would do well out of Era 1. I'm leaving this one being like, I believe in Rachel the most, and the rest I'm like, we have to wait and see. A lot of them, we sort of know what we're getting with them, and it's a matter of, do they go above those expectations this time?
That's where I'm at. Like, if I had a bank on one person from Era 1 winning, it's Rachel. If I had to pick a second one, it might not even be CT.
I mean, I'm just hard pressed to give CT like, hey, I'm not someone who gets fooled by the previews, but it doesn't look good. So I can't just in good faith say that we're about to see CT like certify who the GOAT is.
So someone from Era 1 wins. It can be guys or girls. You can't pick Rachel. Who's your next pick?
I mean, the next person, the next two people that I feel like you would have to have the most expectation of at that point, if you remove her and you remove CT just because of him being CT, would be a toss up between Brad and Darrell. But then I would have to go Darrell just because we do not know where Brad's head is at going into this.
You got to the same place I was, which is why not that I'm predicting a Darrell win. I would love a Darrell win. I think that would be awesome, but not predicting that wouldn't put any type of stake on that whatsoever. But I do think that if someone was going to win from Era 1 not named Rachel, Darrell's the person I'd pick.
Okay. Was Rachel Road Rules?
Yes.
Okay. So I think Rachel is our best chance at 40 seasons later, we still get someone named a champion that was introduced in Road Rules.
Be a cool story.
Like, that is a cool story of like the narrative of like where it all began. It all began with 5 real world alumni doing Road Rules. That was what season 1 was. Like 40 seasons later, you have someone who was from that original show of Road Rules win the challenge. Would be such a fun little narrative.
Well, and that's what we need someone from Road Rules, and then say that she were to do that, then your male is actually from the real world cast and not like, I don't know, someone from Era 4, which would be, I like Kylan, but if Kylan wins, Horacio, Josh, Theo, if they win season 40, I'm a bit disappointed.
You're ending the podcast with more jokes, I see.
Yeah, it would be a tough one.
But we'll be back next week. Polly will be joining us next week to cover Era 2, which has a lot of heavy hitters. Some people that like when you first saw the cast, you were like, do the men drop? Because you don't have Wes, you don't have Kenny, you don't have Evan. I will personally be coming into it next week, telling you why. Don't sleep on them.
Don't sleep on them. And that female cast, the female side of the cast for Era 2 is so good that I feel like if you're looking at the totality of it, it makes up for maybe the weaker on the name side of the male cast.
It's strong, but volatile.
What did Aviv do to you?
Nothing. It's not her. She's going to be fine.
No, it's Era 2 is unfortunately I think it's the way that the challenge fans are looking at it as a whole is it's the older eras that they're most excited for. And then it becomes more blah or not excited as you get to 3 and specifically 4. I think that's the way that it's going to go for, I don't know, 2 maybe even more exciting to do for us, the podcast version. If we're talking about what ifs, it's where we came in. And as you mentioned, like season 1, it was 5 people. They all won. Where it was when you get to that 11 through 20, that's really where the game kind of starts. You start to see more the politics side of it, and you start to see larger casts. So I feel like there's a lot more people to pick from of, I was so-and-so would have made the show that didn't. Yeah. I mean, I feel like you could easily, if you were just going from Era 2 for both, especially the women's side, guys' side may be a little bit harder, but especially for the women's side, be like, come up with a list of 10 and be like, I got to 15 and now I need to whittle it down to 10. And we have to whittle it down to 5.
Well, we'll have to do it. But stay connected to the podcast network in general of Reality After Show. In the meantime, become a patron at realitypatron.com. That's realitypatron.com. That's where you'll get more of the behind the scenes updates from Johnny, from Matt, from the whole gang, the weekly Q&A podcast, plus other things along the way, as well as just on the regular main network here on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts, which, by the way, give us 5 stars, give us a thumbs up, hit that bell for notifications, do all those things because that helps the algorithms push our content out. And if you like what we do, we would like to continue to gain more ears and a larger audience to continue talking about the shows that we love. But we have a lot of new things coming up. Like we have the Reality Queens podcast with Rachel and Jen Hoffman. Like we have Big Brother content coming in with them, as well as the Fields of Reality with Sari and Jared. Like we have our Survivor content with Johnny and Matt. Like there's a lot going on here, and we're going to just continue trudging along on our march to season 40. Thank you all for coming here today and talking through the OGs and getting to the roots here. We'll see you all next time.